Everybody surfing to.
Happy Tuesday and welcome into the PHNX Sun Devils show. I'm Anthony Totri, joined as always by the dumbest guy alive, Erik Ruby. We got the deli man behind the Mac making all of the magic happen. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. Emily in the chat, BC in the chat, ready to talk about those Arizona State Sun Devils, potentially some future Arizona State Sun Devils. Before we get into Matt Rubis, I mean, you looked irritated, you looked upset at me referencing one of your nicknames that I'm pretty sure you came up with this one.
I'm pretty sure, wasn't I the stupidest guy alive?
What did I say? The dumbest guy alive?
Dumbest guy.
Would you rather be stupid or dumb?
Yeah, it definitely would rather be stupid.
You'd rather be stupid? Okay, I'm joined by the stupidest guy alive, Erik Ruby.
It's been a minute since we got that one. We got Chicken Little. Still have refused to use Professor Yoke, but we're dipping into that one.
Yeah, we're gonna. I mean, would you want to be someone else today? You want to be Old Dog Legs? Do you want to be Jose Perez?
I actually think those two are worse.
Okay, the stupidest guy alive it is then.
There
Z-Man in the chat, Parker here as well. Of course, we're going to be talking about some future Arizona State Sun Devils because if you can't tell by social media, the Arizona State coaching staff is on the recruiting trail. They've been taking some visits, and there are potentially some commitments looming for the Sun Devils over the next couple of days and potentially some visits going into the weekend. We will let you know what those are. But Erik, before we get into what the class of 2027 could look like in regards to specific players committing, visiting, etc., I think this is a perfect time to really crack open what the last several recruiting classes have looked like for Arizona State and for real diehard Arizona State fans that are obsessed with every single aspect of college football, transfer portal, NIL, playoff, bowl games, every single game, every single practice. This is just another layer of how you build a program. And I think if you look at what Kenny Dillingham's been able to do since he got here, starting with that class of 2023 recruiting class, now going on to the recruiting class of 2027, like it's certainly upward trajectory class by class by class.
Yeah, the prospects of it for sure. I think when we go through some of the names, you can hope to get just a couple of the guys who have turned out like a few of these recruiting classes have had. And then there are some names that you'll look back on and be like, whoa, uh-oh. Hopefully these guys don't turn out like them. But yeah, I think they're doing a good job of balancing looking at high school recruiting, which I think more and more so, I don't want to say it's becoming obsolete, but it's certainly taking a step back in terms of importance to the transfer portal and to internal development. But I still feel like they're upticking and doing better. Plus, there are some names we'll talk about, including a local name, where that is kind of a big demand that I've personally had from the program is to step it up when it comes to local recruiting. And we've seen that a little bit as well. So steps in the right direction for sure.
1,000%. And I just want to go out and say this. It's crazy to me. We're talking about the class of 2027 right now. And Dilly's first class was the class of 23 because that feels like it was just yesterday. It doesn't feel like it was as many years ago as it was, but here we are. In that class of 2023, I don't think there was a lot of expectation going into that class from the fan base of like first year, you hired Dilly in December, right? Early signing period at that time, still in late December. So like the expectation wasn't you're going to go get a bunch of like world beaters for that first class, right? Their highest rated player was none other than Jaden Rashada. He was a former 5-star, Came in as a 4-star. He was the only 4-star recruit. And Erik, I don't want to get back on the whole 4-star, 5-star. What do the stars mean
No,
today? I
let's
don't
do
want to
it,
do that.
man. We're
I
only
don't want to
5
do
minutes
that for
in.
Shane's sake. I'm just telling you what they were rated coming out and committing to Arizona State. Rashada was the highest rated player. They had 22 enrollees in that class. That includes JUCO. That doesn't include transfer portal players, just includes high school to college and JUCO level players. Other major additions in that class included Keith Abney, Kyson Brown, CJ Fight, Montana Warren. Overall, a great example of getting depth, I think, within your class, and not necessarily going and getting what's largely viewed as like home run hitters, but finding gems in that middle of the pack, guys that were rated 3 stars, and you look at what some of those names have become versus where Jaden Rashada is honestly at in his future.
Yeah, if you could have a class that brings you Keith Abney and CJ Fight, you're good. Like you're good. And of course, there are other talented players in that as well. Depth rotation pieces, guys that could figure to start next year in Montana Warren and Kyson Brown, and guys that have been, integral parts of this team as rotation guys. But Keith Abney might go in the first round of the NFL draft, right? Like CJ Fight is somebody that could have gone to the NFL this year, but is staying home and is a massive, massive, massive retention, probably the most important retention on this team for next season.
Yeah.
And if you're able to get 2 of those premier guys in one draft or in one class, then you're doing good. And again, it gives you pause at looking at the stars specifically for this recruiting staff, because you're like, okay, well, we've seen what they've done with guys who are on the lower end of their class and turning them into, and of course, it's not just, the program, but it's the player as well, but helping turn them into premier college football talents, which both CJ Fight and Keith Abney were last year. And so if you're able to get 1 or 2 of those guys that can be foundational pieces, culture guys, every single class, which is hard, but if you could, that is a great way to keep this sustainment of young talent flowing in that's hungry and is retained. That's also the big part too. Out of all those guys that we named, the guy who's not here anymore is Jaden Rashada, and he's nowhere anymore. He keeps on blah, blah. I think he already transferred
Mississippi
from Mississippi
State
now. I'm pretty sure he already transferred from Mississippi State. I think he's at Georgia Southern now. Oh, nope. Now he's at Temple. Oh, wait. Okay. Arkansas State. Oh, but now he's back to Mississippi State. Okay. Now Pima Community College. I'm sorry. This is all happening in real time. But all those other guys are still here, right? I mean, Keith obviously is going to the NFL, but he never left, right? CJ's back for another year. Kyson's back for another year. Montana's back for another year. How many other schools have a large group of players from that 23 class that have become as important as Arizona State's has, and that are staying and have been around for their entire college careers? So that's an impressive class to look back at, especially as his first one.
Yeah, and Z-Man puts it well, says foundational guys. That's exactly what they were at key positions for Arizona State. Keith on the perimeter at corner, CJ fighting the heart and the teeth of that defense up front. Kyson Brown being a consistent force in the backfield, whether he's been a true starting caliber running back or not, right? Montana, I know there's high expectations as well. And I think I said when Dilly first got hired and you saw the recruiting class, I was pretty steadfast in saying, well, he's really going to be judged in that third class, right? Because at that point, you have had enough time as the sitting head coach to develop some of those relationships. So 23 was his first class. 24 was the second class. 2 4-stars. So 1 more than you got the previous year. Now, Rashada didn't work out at ASU. The 2 4-stars, the highest rated players in that class of 2024 for Arizona State were Jason Brown Jr. and Jaden Fortier. Jaden Fortier no longer here. JBJ in the thick of a really, really talented, loaded running back room going into this coming season. 20 enrollees in that class, so a couple fewer than you had in 23. Again, this factors in JUCO guys. Other key additions in that class: Rodney Bimage, Champ Westbrooks, Martell Hughes, Plas Johnson. Now, a couple of those guys you haven't necessarily seen contribute right off rip at Arizona State. I add them because I expect bigger things this year. Rodney Bimage being one of them. Champ Westbrook's potentially competing for a starting spot along the offensive line. Martell Hughes, I think, going to be a force at linebacker in 2026. Plas Johnson, I'm excited to see him take a step this year after coming back from injury. Overall, again, another good example of, hey, your highest rated players, not necessarily boom, day one starters, guys that even a couple years down the line have truly been sensational. And that's nothing against those players, right? Jaden Fortier's not here anymore, right? Stephen F. Austin, tight end, Jaden Fortier. And Jason Brown Jr., somebody, again, I know the fan base is really, really steadfast in wanting to see him get reps, but another great example of like, hey, look at the guys around this class and the meat of it, right? The Bimage, the Hughes, the Westbrooks, the Plas Johnsons that could potentially have a massive impact going into this season. And going from 2024 to 2025, Erik, again, looking at the class, 2 4-stars in that class of 2025, headlined by Cam Dyer and AJ Ia. 23 enrollees in that class. One of the highest classes in terms of like actual additions for Arizona State. Some key additions in there. Just again, if we're going based off of what you've seen, right, through 2023 and 2024, hasn't always been those top tier guys that produce. So I've laid out some guys that I'm interested to see not only in 2026 at ASU, but 2027. Deshaun Morgan and the interior of the defensive line potentially getting some run this season with Jacob Kangaika gone and now a hole next to CJ Fight at the D-tackle spot. Harry Hassman, Man, Makai Stewart, right? Some guys that in this 2025 class could be interesting, but does anything stand out to you just based off of those 2024 and 2025 classes for the Sun Devils before we get into 2026 and beyond?
I mean, in the 2024 class, I'm looking at 3 guys that could start this year, 2 guys that I expect to start. I think Rodney Bimage starts. I think Champ starts. Martell Hughes is going to be a very, very key rotational piece at your linebacker position. I just think there's so much top-end talent and depth there that I wouldn't be surprised, obviously, if he doesn't start. And Plas Johnson is a little bit more of a wild card than those guys in my mind, but could still be a contributor. Bimage was a guy who was on the field last year. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Bimage was a guy that we were talking about all off season is like, you can't lose him, right? With all the guys that you've lost in that secondary, Rodney Bimage was the guy that you couldn't lose. And they did. They retained him. Martell Hughes has also been somebody who has just already been on the field contributing at a major level. So, to me, I look at those guys and I'm like, okay, I feel good about that class. And then you look to the next one. I mean, you saw Man get a little bit of run near the end of the year, occasionally during the season, not a ton. Still a lot of potential there. But again, a really crowded running back room. Same thing as like Jason Brown Jr., who I liked a little bit more what I saw from him in the Sun Bowl. Makai Stewart was thrown into the trenches, quite literally, against Texas Tech and was able to hold his own. You got to be excited about what he can do. I'm still looking at AJ Ia from 2025. That is somebody that I expect to take a pretty big leap as far as their role on the team going into next year. I know there's a lot of internal buzz about AJ Ia. He's somebody that I expected a little bit more from last year, but going into this year, his size, his speed, he moves like a wide receiver, but he's taller than a regular tight end. He's got great hands. I think AJ Ia could be a massive part of this. So if I'm looking at any name from there, even beyond Cam Dyer, the guys that have already played, I'm looking at AJ Ia as maybe the premier piece of 25.
1,000%. Now moving to that 2026 class, the class that will be incoming freshmen at Arizona State. Again, just I'm trying to point out the staircase of growth for Arizona State, because that's kind of what it feels like from 2023, 2024, 2025, and 2026. 2026, by far the highest rated recruiting class for Arizona State, this incoming class of freshmen. And that is pointing out how successful some of those players at the other levels of Arizona State's classes have been from 2023 through 2025. 2026, they took a jump in top level talent, right? 2023, 1-star, 2024, 2025, 2-star, 2 4-stars. And in 2026, 4 4-stars for Arizona State as incoming freshmen. Jake Fetty, Carde Mack, Julian Hugo, and Jarmaine Mitchell, including the JUCO players in there, right? Obviously not a true freshman, but somebody that is a JUCO guy. Other key additions in that class: Hayden Vircher at tight end, Landon Anderson along the D-line, and Jalen Williams as a DB. By all accounts, this is the freshman class that we were talking about at the start, right? Of like, hey, give it a couple years. Give it 3 years and then we can evaluate, right? What these classes start to look like. 2023, 2024, 2025. Here we are, 2026. This is the class of like, hey, you built those relationships over the last several years, and you already see it start to translate in some of the what's considered high-level talent coming to Arizona State. A lot of folks excited about Fetty. A lot of folks excited about Carde Mack. I don't think enough folks are talking about Julian Hugo on the D-line, us included. Julian Hugo is somebody that potentially, given the loss of talent you had on the defensive line, could be somebody that steps in as a rotational guy potentially early on in his career. Getting more depth at tight end. We already talked about what Jermaine Mitchell does as a probably day one starter at left tackle for Arizona State, flipping from Georgia to Arizona State. This class of 2026 is going to be wildly exciting for Arizona State fans, just based off the fact that this is, in theory, the best signing class that Arizona State has had with Kenny Dillingham at the helm. And you've already seen some of the high-level talent that they've been able to get in what would be considered probably gems, right? Guys that aren't the top shelf players when you recruited them. This is going to be an exciting freshman class.
Yeah, I mean, you potentially have your starting quarterback this year, right? And certainly you have somebody that you're banking on being your next, I guess, franchise quarterback, for as much as you could use the term franchise quarterback in college, in Jake Fetty. But like when you look at that, to be able to have that and then go down the line, you have so many players that you can look at and say, look, maybe beforehand we're taking a look at guys and say, oh yeah, maybe they can be a little bit more involved. Maybe they could end up being diamonds in the rough, like you were able to see with the Keith Abney or CJ fight. There are so many more names in 2026 in that you could see there doing that. Carde Mack is somebody that in a crowded running back room might come in and just start getting snaps immediately. Like that's how good that he is. Right. I know we talk about Julian Hugo, Jermaine Mitchell. I fully expect to be starting on the offensive line on game one. I know it's a little bit different because he's a JUCO guy, not a high school guy, but obviously still a part of this class. But I think he's a little bit more of a sure thing. I'm really excited about this 26 class. And the thing is, like, yeah, the pressure's kind of on now from a performance standpoint of some of these guys from the last couple of classes need to step up, because the reality of the situation is when you're looking at, okay, all of Kenny's recruiting classes, that 23 recruiting class is the one that has brought the most top end talent, right? Not that there hasn't been other guys who have stepped up in that. Like we've mentioned a lot of their names already and guys that we expect to step up more, but we need guys that go beyond expectation. And now we're talking about reality, right? And if you can get a couple from this recruiting class, a couple of freshmen guys to go out there just to be those dudes off rip, wow, guys like Rodney Bimmage, like a Champ Westbrooks, like an AJ Ia continue to step up after their year here in the program, that mixed with, okay, we just went out in the transfer portal and got maybe our best class ever. Cool. Like that's how you build a successful program. That's how you continue to retain top end talent. That's how you make sure guys are comfortable in the fact that they're going to be in a winning situation, but never comfortable in the fact that they think they don't have to work for their spot. So hopefully it works out. You never know. Everybody thought Jaden Rashada was going to work out, but I do like how this 26 class looks. And I do think that ASU in general and the coaching staff in general is very, very high on this class and very high on Jake Fetty in specific. And so that should get Sun Devil fans pretty excited considering this coaching staff's history with quarterbacks.
Chris in the chat asking what we think about the Dabo Sweeney comments as it relates to the Ole Miss transfer stuff. That's definitely a question I think we can answer maybe at the end of today's show. So just I'll make a point to come back to that. Clint says whoever makes his thumbnail deserves a raise. Shane, the deli man, you deserve a raise, according to Clint.
Congrats, deli man.
But I think we've set the stage, right? Class of 2023 all the way through class of 2026. But we're talking about the next wave, the class of 2027. How does it look now? Who could potentially join that recruiting class for Arizona State? We're going to break that down on the other side of our first.
We've been telling you about Pure Edibles for a long time now. The best part is they keep on upping their game, and we know why, because all three founders are ASU alumni. And if you don't know about Pure Edibles, Pure is a full-fledged candy company offering gummies, Kicks, which is their version of Starburst, chews, and hard candies, but it's not like every other candy. No, Pure is going to make you feel real good using a unique blend of cannabinoids such as CBN, CBG, and CBD, of course, with marijuana-derived THC. They give you the exact effect that you desire because they clearly list it on all of their tins. You want to be sleepy? They got one for that. You want to be uplifted? They got one for that. And you could check out Tower Station Noble Road's collab with Pure Edibles for an all-in-one vape that tastes just like my favorite IPA, of course, Tower Station. So if you're in Arizona, swing by select local dispensaries, grab your Tower Station AIO from Noble Road, and cheers to happy hour all day, every day, and go find yourself some Pure Edibles products, one of the over 130 dispensaries across Arizona.
We've got PHNX partners that try and help you save money, PHNX partners that give you a chance to win money. We also have a PHNX partner in Mountain America Credit Union that's got a place for you to put your money. That's right. We're talking about Mountain America Credit Union's My Style checking account, but it's not like your traditional checking account. This one's got perks. It's got built-in benefits just for you. Now, you guys can enjoy restaurant deals, mobile phone protection, identity protection, telehealth access, offers on travel and events, loan rate discounts, and more. Make My Style your lifestyle at Mountain America Credit Union. Make sure you visit macu.com/mystyle to apply. Insured by NCUA. Membership required based on eligibility. Some benefits require no cost registration/activation. Terms, conditions, and exclusions apply. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcast. I'm going to say it one more time. Hit that subscribe button, please. Pretty please, with sugar on top and sprinkles and all of the things, maybe even a cherry and some chocolate sauce, because look, we are doing our very best to hit 50,000 subscribers right here on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel prior to the Super Bowl. I believe we are less than 800 away at this point in time. Do us a solid if you're not already subscribed. The race to 50K is on. Erik, are you subscribed?
Oh, yeah. I'm
making
subscribed
sure.
on 2 different accounts.
Wow. Look at you. Deli Man, are you subscribed? That is a yes. So I ask all of you, are you subscribed to the PHNX Sports YouTube channel? Because if not, please do it. Wes Beasy says nothing better than enjoying a cannabinoid and listening to my guys on the PHNX Sun Devil pod. We appreciate you, Wes Beasy, as always. I know we're all excited to see what Champ Westbrooks does this season for the Arizona
less than
State
700.
Sun Devils.
Less than 700
wow. subscribers away from
Ding,
50K.
ding, ding.
Come on, help us
Breaking
get there. We would really appreciate it. We would really appreciate if you hit that sub button.
Totri's going to cry if you don't subscribe.
I'm going to potentially cry if we do hit 50K. Just throwing that out there. Look, we've set the stage, right, for the class of 2027, going each class based off of incoming freshmen. And it's still early days, right, in building the class of 2027. Right now, Sun Devils do have 2 commits. 2 commits. They are both 4 stars, which says a whole hell of a lot given what we just did, the exercise. Whereas your first class at Arizona State, class 2023 with Kenny Dillingham, had 1 4-star in the entire class. Your first 2 commitments in the class of 2027 are 4 stars at key positions. Nico Bland at wide receiver, and then, of course, Weston Nielsen, the 4-star quarterback, a part of that early list of commitments for Arizona State in the class of 2027. But there is one name that I think Arizona State fans are really eager to hear, and that is potentially a commitment from Golden Ticket wide receiver Zerek Sidney, a 4-star wideout here locally in the Valley, set to announce his commitment Thursday morning between his final 3. Arizona State, Oklahoma, and UW. You will have an answer on whether or not Arizona State lands their first Golden Ticket recipient, or I guess I shouldn't say first Golden Ticket recipient. He would be the first Golden Ticket recipient to potentially commit to Arizona State. I know there are a couple still in play for the Sun Devils in that class of 2027, but getting Zerek Sidney, getting 2 4-star wideouts to start your class of 2027 would be just an absolute home run, not only for Kenny Dillingham, but for Hines Ward as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be QBU, you got to be wide receiver you as well, and especially getting those young guys in. I need Zerek here, so in practice it could be Zerek versus Zeph, because that would be great. But the golden ticket part of it is really the important part for me. Obviously, it would be great to get Zarek, and I think that as far as like his talent and what he brings, like he would be a really good fit into what wide receivers have been here at Arizona State and in that system. But more so for the golden ticket part of it, I think the golden ticket initiative was a really great idea from Kenny and from company to go out there and say, hey, we know that local recruiting has been in a little bit of a lull. There's been some great talent coming out of the state of Arizona for a long time now, and Arizona high school football just continues to get better and better and better. Let's do this. Let's go out there. Let's give some golden tickets to some premier recruits that we want to focus in on, that we want to keep here. It's only a cool idea if they do it. Right? Like if you give out 6 golden tickets and all 6 go elsewhere, are you going to go out there and give 6 more golden tickets? I don't know. You might, but it's not exactly like a great precedent. So like beyond just the fact of who he is individually as a player, to be the first guy to hopefully be the domino that doesn't just keep the golden ticket guys home, but a lot of the other great talent that didn't receive golden tickets that could end up being great college football or NFL players here locally. It's a domino that needs to fall. They've got some local guys. I would say that is the only kind of, nitpicking I can do with their recruiting classes, is that they still have not gotten some of these top end guys that you would expect them to be able to get, as Arizona State won a Big 12 championship recently, right? Kenny Dillingham and their entire coaching staff basically has local ties to Arizona high school football. So it's pretty important tomorrow morning and when this decision is made. Not that it wouldn't make sense to go to Oklahoma or UW, but for him to end up at Arizona State would be a pretty big deal.
Yeah, somebody that I think at the Power 4 level will be a contributor. Maybe not right away as a true freshman, but somebody that could certainly develop into a contributor at a high level at the P4 level. The number 6 rated player by 24/7 Sports here in the Valley. So getting a top 10 player in that class locally would certainly kind of set a new precedent for the Sun Devils of like, hey, we've been trying to recruit here. We've been trying to get the elevated high school talent in the Valley to stay home and come to Arizona State. And they've done, I think, a pretty solid job of getting guys via the portal back home, back to Tempe, back in a Sun Devil uniform. But it would really potentially start a trend if you're able to, like you said, get just one. Get just one golden ticket guy, right? Sure. I don't care what position he is. Now, does it help? He's ranked a top 50 wide receiver in the country certainly. But that's not what this is about. This is about creating a new factory that leads to Arizona State of talent. Because you've got the Texas to Tempe pipeline. That's there. Arizona State still likes to recruit California, right? So you've got really your 2 staples for Sun Devil football. Solid pipelines. Texas and California, really, really talented places. And you've seen over time Kenny Dillingham and the staff start to venture out, right? Class of 2024, you're able to get some of the top level talent in the state of Washington, right? Has it translated right away? No, but still trying to go out there and get talent across the country, because there are gems of high school talent that want to be Sun Devils outside of just 2 of the 50 states, right? But you got to be able to do it in your backyard. And I think if you're able to add Arizona to that list of Texas and California, that really is going to open the floodgates for what Arizona State football can be in terms of maximizing the reach, maximizing their potential. Because no, Arizona State high school football as it stands in 2026 is not Texas, right? There are 2 juggernauts when it comes to high school football. It is Texas and it is Florida. But Arizona State, they're trying to weasel their way into some of those places. We'll talk about it a little bit later on in the show. Trying to get some talent from Florida, trying to get some talent from Illinois. But get these guys to stay here, right? Get the number 6 player in the Valley to stay here. And some of the other golden ticket recipients, they're the highest rated players in the state. Noah
Yeah.
Roberts, one of the highest rated players in the state, is a golden ticket recipient. Jake Hildebrand, the number 1 player in the state for the class of 2027, is a golden ticket recipient. Get some of these guys to stay here and see what Arizona State can build in their classes, because they're doing what they've done over the last several years, Erik, without a lot of like top 10, top 5 guys locally.
Yeah, when you go down and you rank, okay, what's the most important thing to get players from as far as like high school recruiting? Texas and California are higher on the list than Arizona. That's a fact. If you're going to build out your roster from any state, those are 2 of the top ones along with Florida. So the coaches are doing the correct thing and prioritizing and making sure that you have quote unquote pipelines from both of those places. But every single top end school has a great way of retaining their local talent, right? Like LSU is always great at finding ways to retain local talent. Alabama is always great at finding ways to retain local talent, but it's the high end local talent. You can't just build a successful college football roster purely off of recruiting in state, but there does need to be a nice little marriage between, okay, the great players in the state, they go to Arizona State, right? And there needs to be a pipeline of success too. Like, okay, Jake Hildebrand, you go to Arizona State, you go leave a draft pick. Guess what? The next great offensive lineman might look at that and be like, oh, well, I need to stay home. I need to go to Arizona State, right? Noah Roberts, you stay here and go to a school that has produced 1,000-yard running back after 1,000-yard running back after 1,000-yard running back, go to the NFL and have success. Well, guess what? The next top end running back, number 1 running back in the state, one of the best in the country. Well, they might want to come here too. You've got to get these initial dominoes to fall because, look, the talent's only going to get better here. It's only going to go up. So it's not the most important thing in the world, but it's certainly an important thing. And it's certainly something that I think if they strike out with on this class, there's going to need to be a conversation to be had as far as like, why are you not able to get that done? Because before it was, okay, well, you got to wait for success. Okay. Then you won a Big 12 championship. And it was like, okay, well, you need to give them a couple of years or maybe a year to kind of like get these high school kids that watch that to get here, right? Or sustain success. Okay, you look at last year. You sold out every single football game. You made a bowl game. You went multiple games above 500. You have a great recruiting class and an insane transfer portal class. Okay. What else do you have to do? How much longer can you kick the can down the road before you see some sort of return on this? I think is if they do end up striking out on all 6 golden ticket guys, you're gonna have to start asking the questions of like, what do they need to do differently to fix that?
I think the only thing that they could do would be win a championship. Like, and that's serious. Like, if previous staffs that have tried to get guys in their backyard didn't want to come, if Kenny and this staff with as much high school Arizona State legends that they do have would strike out, if they were to strike out on all 6 of these guys, yeah, I don't know what else you could do. Like, genuinely, and this isn't like well, you got to do this. You got like, I don't know what else you could do because you've had success. You're doing initiatives. Like, at a certain point, you have to accept the reality of like, hey, kids want to go venture out. Like that as part of the discussion, right? Of like, these kids didn't necessarily grow up with Arizona State being a dominant school. They grew up with Bama. They grew up with Notre Dame. They grew up with Ohio State. So yeah, if those schools come calling, they do want to go venture out and see. It has nothing to do in reality with Arizona State, I think, if they do truly strike out, but hopefully that's a conversation that we don't have to have. CJ in the chat. Welcome, CJ. Aaron and Z-Man in here as well. CJ saying Texas 3-star, AZ 4-star, Idaho 1-star. Don't matter. We want who wants to be here, and the studs will develop. 1,000%, right? And I think this staff has done a good job of that, but it is more so of like, hey, they're trying to get the talented guys here to stay here because they see that talent. They know what it would mean long-term for these schools, for these individuals, and of course, for Arizona State. Last little note on Zerek. Again, he will announce his commitment on Thursday between those 3, ASU, Oklahoma, and Washington. We'll keep you updated right here on the PHNX Sports YouTube channel once that commitment does break. What I will say is Zerek did unofficially visit ASU twice in the last year. He visited during the Territorial Cup, and he visited when Houston came to town. So didn't get to see a win when he came to visit Arizona State those 2 times unofficially. Maybe you can put the losses on him. Maybe you can pin the 2 losses that ASU suffered while he
All
was here
right.
on Zerek. No, just throwing that out there. We'll see ultimately what decision he makes. But ASU not just in play for Zerek Sidney's commitment. ASU also among one of the top reported schools for California safety. Isala Wily-Ava, which is just a great name overall. 6'2" safety, another 4-star kid by 24/7 Sports. He's a top 25 safety nationally, and a top 25 player in the state of California. Again, we know what Arizona State has been able to do in terms of developing young DBs. We haven't really seen ASU, at least over the last several seasons, take a high school safety and transition him into an elite college safety, right? Ghost was a transfer. X was a transfer. Boogie was a transfer. Shamari was a transfer. Now, Kyan McDonald is somebody that he played in the Sun Bowl, somebody that is some of these other safeties have gotten hurt or not played because of X, Y, and Z. He has been in there a little bit more. I wouldn't say we've seen him like take off. I think I'm interested to see what he does and what his playing time looks like in 2026. But would be nice to be able to get a safety of his size and caliber on the back end of this defense so that you could maybe start to develop some of these younger safeties into players that play immediately. And again, Erik, it kind of fits the bill of, hey, Arizona State recruits 2 states pretty heavily, Texas and California.
Yeah, and they're going higher end now. They're going star shopping, trying to get these 4 stars out here, which of course doesn't matter literally at all, literally never at all. But they are targeting some higher end pieces, and you got to be excited about that. Plus, there's been more news that we'll get into here in a second with that. But yeah, getting some premier defensive guys in that secondary as far as recruiting goes. We saw this past transfer portal cycle, they basically revamped the entire room. But it was kind of a shock because they had done such a good job of building internally. I think you need to kind of have a pipeline and a system going up and retaining guys. So hopefully being able to replenish with some top end young talent freshmen and then work their way up and hopefully become rotation pieces of sophomores and juniors. That's the way to build a successful football program, right? And to be able to do that with 4 stars instead of 3 stars, it's not always going to guarantee success, but it is going to give you a good shot. And so I think these are 2 names that if they end up here, that'd be great.
Yeah, 1000%. More to discuss as it relates to Arizona State's class of 2027. Some names to keep an eye on over the next couple of days, weeks, and months. We'll tell you who they are on the other side of our final break.
The husband and wife law team is where all your research will lead you after a serious accident or an injury, because guess what? Mark and Alexis Breyer lead a team that brings hundreds of years of combined trial experience with multiple certified specialists in personal injury and wrongful death. And while by the book and on paper, of course, are the most qualified to help you out when you are in the toughest part of your life, they also love to make you and all of their clients guarantees, like guarantees that you can cancel your fee agreement at any time for any reason. You'll receive at least as much in your pocket as they receive for their fee, even if they have to reduce their attorney's fee to do so. You may speak with one of their lawyers as often as you choose about anything you'd like to discuss, and of course they will always, and I mean always, tell you the strengths and the weaknesses of your case so that you can make the best, most informed decision. So if you've had a serious injury, it's imperative that you call the husband and wife law team first at 602-783-8841. That's 602-783-8841, or visit their website, the link in our show notes, and tell them that PHNX sent you.
Look, sometimes we like to butter you guys up with some of these ads, but I'm just going to cut to the chase here. Do you like tequila? Do you like golf? Because I sure as hell do. And that is the perfect combination that you're going to get over at the Waste Management Phoenix Open, because our friends over at Don Julio are returning to the Open February 3rd through the 8th. Of course, they're offering a range of fun experiences and activities all week that you guys aren't gonna want to miss out on. Of course, the main attraction is going to be their setup over at the Fairway House above the 12th hole, where you guys can get margarita on draft, take a photo with the Don Julio truck, and as much as we love tequila and golf, they've got complimentary water that you are definitely going to want to mix in. So if you're planning on attending the tournament this year, make sure to visit our friends at Don Julio across the venue and tell them that PHNX sent you. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe button, and drop a 5-star review wherever you get your podcasts. I see some people in the chat talking about Juju Johnson. He is a 4-star corner by 24/7 Sports in California. Arizona State sent a contingent out there today. And they went and visited him at school. Brian Carrington out there, Kenny Dillingham, among some of the Arizona State staff that took a visit to see him, among a bunch of other class of 2027 talent. Somebody that, as it stands, again, looking for the class of 2027, has a lot of high-level offers, as you would expect a top 10 corner in that class nationally to have offers from Michigan, Oklahoma, Oregon, Bama. The list goes on and on and on. 24/7 Sports does have him with a crystal ball prediction to Oklahoma. Crystal ball predictions by 24/7 Sports aren't always 100%. So just something to keep in mind when it comes to that. Players flip, they switch, and he hasn't committed anywhere as it stands right now. The tweet actually from him with Kenny, with BC, had 2 words, and it was forks up. So things you love to see, but getting to some other names to keep in mind for Arizona State. We had tweeted it from the PHNX Sun Devils account yesterday. 4-star wide receiver Quentin Burrell is set to visit Arizona State this weekend. Now, I don't know if you guys pay attention to everything that Kenny Dillingham posts and does. He's very intentional. Posted on Instagram a photo saying, "Guess where I'm at," right? With the weather, everything going on. He was in Illinois over the weekend. And this kid, Quentin Burrell, do you just happen to know where he's from?
Kansas.
Good guess.
Dang it.
Chicago, Illinois.
Oh, that would make so much more sense.
Potentially took a visit to go see this 4-star wideout who is set to visit the Sun Devils this weekend. He is 6'3", $175, great ball skills, runs the full route tree, a vertical threat, stretches the field. Would be a nice addition to that class. Again, we already talked about Zerek Sidney as a 4-star wide receiver. This is another 4-star wide receiver. That would be huge. Again, if you want to know what the crystal ball prediction says, the crystal ball prediction says he's not going to be an Arizona State Sun Devil. It says he's going to be a Notre Dame Fighting Irish. But again, these things aren't 1,000%. Visiting ASU this weekend. It's nice. It's warm. Weather's beautiful.
Yeah, not
a couple of dogs.
Time.
O'Marion Miller, Reed Harris here this weekend. Maybe give this guy a grand tour before they've even stepped foot in a Sun Devil uniform playing for ASU. But it would go a long way to get another 4-star. The number 2 player, if I'm not mistaken, in the entire state of Illinois. We know Arizona State has gone and ventured, like we said earlier, into other states that they don't traditionally recruit, gotten some high-level talent, right? You look at the Jaden Fortiers, the Jason Brown Jr.'s in Washington. I think even this last class, you look at Landon Myrie, getting him from Ohio. Mason Martin, I believe. Oh, man, where did they get Mason Martin
I think
from?
He's Ohio.
I don't think he's Ohio. I think he might be Missouri, if I'm not mistaken. I think I'm ripping that one. I think Mason Martin was a Missouri linebacker.
Yep, St. Louis.
Boom, ripped it. But yeah, I think again when we're talking about some of these players, it would go a long way to get Burrell, but another wide receiver potentially visiting the Sun Devils this weekend, and that is 4-star wide receiver. Again, if you notice a trend here, Erik, they're trying to get these wide receivers out here. Zion White one of the top-rated players, again, at his position nationally. He's the number 21 wide receiver nationally. In that class of 2027, we talked about the two hotbeds for talent in high school football. It is Texas. It is Florida. Zion White is from Florida, plays at IMG Academy. I mean, let's just cut to the chase. How about you lock all three of these wide receivers in? Zerek Sidney, come on down. Let's go Zion White, Quentin Burrell. Like, why don't you just all be Sun Devils and have the greatest wide receiver signing class in ASU history? That would be four. That would be four 4-star wide receivers. Just if they all, again, in La La Land here, because that's sometimes where you have to go when it comes to recruiting. If they all signed with Arizona State.
Yeah. Look, it would be nice. Also, it's a harder sell, I guess, when there are a lot more guys in that position, too. But if you get one of them, that'd be nice. If you get two of them, that'd be nice. If you get three of them, that'd be great. And you know what helps this type of stuff, if you ever get yourself in a similar situation before, is if you go out through this season and you go, okay, look at Reed Harrison and Marion Miller. Wow, two top-end wide receivers. Both were able to eat at the same time. You know, like if you can prove that you can be more than just a one wide receiver, school and a one wide receiver, unit. You've seen Eusebio and Jordan Tyson do that this year. Like you're gonna be able to sell a lot more young guys. I'm like, hey, come here. You're gonna have more of an opportunity to eat. Even if you're not wide receiver 1, you're wide receiver 2. You're still gonna eat. You wide receiver 3. You're still gonna eat. Let's get them all to sign at the same time, at the same day, huh? Best friends for life. Why don't we?
Best friends for life. As easy as that. It really is. The Green M&M in the chat, throwing this one out here. Butter Tollefson switched positions, for those of you that didn't know. Switched from quarterback to wide receiver. Asking if he's going to see the field. No, I don't think he is. I don't think he's going to see the field. Unfortunately for him, he jumped to a room that has a lot of talent already in it. A lot of bigger talent, more explosive talent at that position. I'm interested to see how it goes, but I don't expect him to see the field right away as a wide receiver, if at all. Tells you kind of where they thought of how they viewed him as a quarterback, somebody that didn't practice outside of scout team at quarterback in 2025. It was, again, right, Sam, Jeff, Cam Dyer, and then in all honesty, I think they viewed Christian Hunt as more of an option at quarterback than Butter, and Christian Hunt transferred out as well. So your quarterback room is not light by any means. It's just different, right? Cam Dyer, Jake Fetty, Mikey Keene, and then Cutter Boley. But no, I do not see Butter Tollefson suiting up as a wide receiver for Arizona State anytime soon. And if he does, I would say something terribly wrong has happened in Tempe. So let's, we can move on from that one. But I think one thing is for sure before we wrap up this football conversation and move on to some women's basketball, Erik, is Arizona State is trending toward putting together their best recruiting class that they've done and that they've had since Kenny Dillingham has been here. And I know it's early in the class of 2027, but the most 4-stars Kenny has ever gotten in a class is 2. And right now, Arizona State only has 2 commits in the class of 2027, and they are both 4-stars. Nico Bland at wide receiver, Weston Nielsen at quarterback. We went through a couple. 4 4-stars. Arizona State is in contention for several wide receivers. Zerek Sidney, Zion White, Quentin Burrell set to visit Arizona State. Of course, Sidney has visited Arizona State twice, set to announce his commitment on Thursday between ASU, Oklahoma, and UW. We talked a little bit about Isala Wily-Ava at safety from California could potentially be in play for the Sun Devils. They're out visiting a highly rated 4-star, one of the top-rated corners in the nation, plays in California. The Sun Devils sending out Kenny Dillingham, Brian Carrington, and company to go visit him. If you're an Arizona State fan, 2026 class is awesome. It's going to feature some awesome incoming freshmen. Class 2027 could be damn fun.
I got a question for you then.
Yeah.
Would you be as excited if they were all 3 stars?
Just know, Shane, I try.
I just it,
I try.
I just find it interesting. And I knew when we were talking about this a week ago, I was like, we're gonna look ahead to future classes. You're gonna be like 4 star, 4 star, four
I'm
star.
just
It's like, hey.
I'm just telling you. I'm just telling you what they're rated. That's it. I'm not going to pretend and sit here like I've watched every single snap that Isala Wily-Ava has had at safety in high school. I'm not.
Yet.
I don't have yet. We'll get there. We will. Okay? We absolutely will. And Wes Beasy says he's a baller at a Bosco. So, yeah, come on down. Sign on the dotted line. Come to Tempe. Come be a Sun Devil. And we'll go from there. That work for you, Rubus?
Works for me, man.
Love it. All right. Before we get out of here, we're going to talk about basketball. You ready?
Yep.
Okay, basketball. That's going to do it for today's episode. No. Molly Miller and the Arizona State women's basketball team, they got a big game. Big old game against the Arizona Wildcats. I want to say this is tomorrow. Am I mistaken on that, Shane? Could you correct me if I'm wrong on that? It is tomorrow night. ASU takes on U of A. The first time that a Molly Miller-led Arizona State is taking on the Kittens of Tucson. ASU is favored in this game. ASU all season long has been way better than Arizona. They're 17-4 right now. It's a tournament team. The Arizona State Sun Devils women's basketball team is trending toward being a tournament team in March. Go out there, set the tone, put a whooping on this Wildcat squad because I am so tired of it. Erik, I don't know if you are, but man, am I sick and tired of Wildcat trolls coming in this chat. You don't talk about basketball. You don't talk about hoop. Do you know it's basketball season? Yes, I know it's basketball season. The men's basketball team, I got nothing for you on that.
They
The
play
women's
tonight.
basketball team, bright future, a coach with her head on straight, some talent that you can root for, some promise. I want to see it. I want to see them just absolutely demolish the Wildcats.
Yeah, it's at home. So if you're able to get out there tomorrow night at 6:30 p.m., make sure you go out there and you support. If not, you can watch it on ESPN Plus. And look, Molly Miller's had a fantastic season in her first year here at Arizona State, 17-4 overall, but all 4 of those losses have come in conference play, 4-4 in conference, which means that every conference win now is pretty big. On the kind of edge of being a tournament team right now. And in order to get in there, you're going to need to finish with a hefty, I think, winning record in conference. I don't think going 500 in conference the rest of the way is going to pull it off to get into the tournament the first year that Molly Miller's head coach. Plus, in the year that the Final Four, I know it's, wishful thinking, but the Final Four is here locally. You want to at least have a chance, a shot at doing that. You want to be a tournament team. And I think they can be. Pretty easy stretch of games in non-con that they were able to take advantage of, and they still won all of them, which is just wildly impressive. But once they've gotten into conference play, they've suffered a couple tough losses to TCU and West Virginia, which are 2 ranked teams, and then coming off of a close loss on the road by just 2 points at Cincinnati. Cincinnati is not one of the better teams in conference. They are actually just 8-13 overall, even after that game, and 3-6 in conference. So that's not the best loss, even though it was on the road. Arizona is below Cincinnati in this conference.
Yeah.
Arizona is 1-7 in the Big 12 so far this year, have a slightly winning record at 10-9. You could drop them to 500 tomorrow. Big game. And look, they love counting your record against the rival schools for your entire career. That includes your first year, right? You're favored at home. Go out there and win. Go out there and take charge, move 1-0, and then you'll play them again in a couple of weeks. But get above 500 in conference, kind of get your head on straight a little bit in conference, and you got a tough run of it still coming up after this. Not always the best teams, and eventually you'll play number 14 Baylor on the road here in a couple of games after taking on Oklahoma State, who's also 16-5 so far this season. So you got to pick up wins against teams like Cincinnati, who you lost to, And Arizona, who besides being a conference foe and your number one rival, is not a great basketball team this year. So you got to pick up a win tomorrow night.
Show up, show out. If you're a student, if you're a fan, an alumni, go support Arizona State women's basketball with a chance to get Molly Miller's first win as a head coach against the Arizona Wildcats. That is going to do it for today's episode of the PHNX Sun Devils show. Again, hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you are not already subscribed. Help us get to 50,000 subscribers. We appreciate everybody watching live, watching after the fact, and listening on audio. The Deli Man, this question's for you. CJ wants to know if you got any thoughts on the Devin Cambridge revenge game tonight for Arizona State men's basketball.
You didn't ask me that.
He asked the Void, and I am asking you.
Okay. Do I have any thoughts on the revenge game or just the game?
Both.
I hope Devin Cambridge has a couple of fun dunks.
Mm-hmm.
I hope he smiles and has a good time.
Yeah.
And I hope ASU continues to win.
Erik?
It'd be pretty cool if Bobby could pick up 2 wins after the generational crash out that we saw, and get some good momentum going into this weekend's game against U of A. It's still kind of crazy that Devin Cambridge is still playing college basketball, but hey, good for you. Do what you can do. UCF's a good team, man. So this is not going to be an easy one on the road. So it should be a good test to see if they really did respond well to the comments that were made after a couple of games ago from Bob. So, it'll be interesting. I don't have high hopes, but I am intrigued at what might happen tonight. So we'll see.
We will see. And of course, we will talk about it tomorrow on the PHNX Sun Devils show. Give us a follow on social, please. I beg of you. On X, on Instagram, on TikTok, PHNX _Sun Devils. You can follow me at Anthony _Totri. You can follow the lister at Erik Ruby. That is Erik with the K. You can follow the Deli Man at Shane Dief. As always, and we will see you guys on Wednesday. In the meantime, go Devils. Peace.
We all silly like the mayor.